Good morning, everybody. This is Grant from State of the Spark, and let me tell you something about today's show. We're covering the lightest topic ever. We're going to cover eternal life and how you can experience it today. We're also going to be talking about how trees are talking about the weather and climate change to each other, how we're recording that song and talking to trees on other planets. Literally, this is happening. This is not make-believe. But before any of that story and other news and figuring out eternal life, you know we're going to be covering a morning cup of gratitude. What are you grateful for? Come on, tell me in the topics. It's Monday. We're out here grinding. We're out here doing good stuff. We're making an impact in the world. So, what are you grateful for? Tell me in the comments. Let's talk about morning cup of gratitude. Oh, we got tea this morning. I've already had a little too much caffeine this morning. That's okay. I've been up a little while. That's partly what I'm grateful for. So I went to tea. Let's lighten it up a little bit. Let's talk about it. First thing I'm grateful for this morning, I'm grateful that I set my clock for 3 a.m. and I got up at 3 a.m. It allowed me to get up and ramp up slowly. Most people ramp up slowly, but it gives me extra time. I was able to get my full workout in. Most mornings, my time is limited because I'm coming to do the show, and my workout gets truncated. Yes, that's your word for this morning, truncated. It gets cut short, and so I often don't get a full workout, but I was able to get a full workout. I was able to get in the sun. I was able to get a quick shower. I was able to study. So getting up at 3 a.m., thanks, Mark Wahlberg. I appreciate you. The other thing I'm grateful for is I had a great Sunday with my wife. We had a good time. It was very holiday. It felt very holiday. I still got up early. I think I got my workout in the morning. No, not in the morning, but I did get up, and we had a good time. We had breakfast together. Great Sunday. Great Sunday with my wife. Very relaxing. We watched a few holiday films while we tinkered away, took care of stuff with the car. I love fixing, closing the story loops. And last but not least, it's my birthday week. Yes, I don't know how old I turned this week. I'm sure I could sit down and do the math, but I never do. I'm either 41 or 42, 43, something like that. But it is my birthday week, so I'm grateful for that. That's what I'm grateful for. What are you grateful for this morning? What are you grateful for this week? How do I know you even carry gratitude in your heart? If I don't hear from you, in the comments, let me know what you're grateful for this morning. Let's talk about other news. Now, I've only got one piece of other news for you because it is so absolutely mind-bogglingly outstanding. Trees can, in fact, help us communicate to other planets. In fact, trees might be the antenna of the planet if we dial it in right, and it can enable us to talk to planets 4 light years away, 4.2 light years away, and get there long before we do. And then aliens on another planet will just be super smart trees to think that we're trees, and they're going to be shocked when we show up and we're bipedal. Let's talk about it. So it is a public art and science project called Tree of Life. Good morning, Jessica. I hope you're doing fantastic. Thanks for swinging by. We're talking about how trees can actually help us connect with other planets. So I have to read this to you. It's just a sentence that I got to read to you, but this was the most mind-boggling sentence I have read in so long that I had to double-check to make sure we weren't on the Sci-Fi Channel. It is from the Space Song Foundation, and they say, the Space Song Foundation connects Earth and outer space through a song, which is sent through radio waves between orbiting spacecraft and an unlikely technological component, a set of living trees that have been activated to operate as large living antenna systems of the planet. So NASA is actually working with the Space Song Foundation, and they're mapping tree song. Digital sensors will pick up shifts in the tree's environment. Custom software will then translate those data points into sonic frequencies and pattern recognition that beam up to a small distance spacecraft. In turn, the craft will then turn the beam back data about its own operational capacity. As water, light, temperature changes, cloud cover, day and night shift, this generates patterns in the trees. And these patterns in the trees and basically their radio frequency is being pattern recognized by artificial intelligence. And these short patterns can give us feedback of information about kind of what's going on. And the trees themselves are the sensors. So as winter comes as climate change occurs. So the short patterns will be things like cloud cover, temperature, light, that sort of thing. Long patterns can be things like climate change or the impact of other species like humans. And so they're taking the time that they translate this into a rhythmic song, kind of like the radio waves of a pulsar. If you've ever seen a neutron star, it creates these low bass frequencies. That radio signals have now been programmed to search for, and now we have AI and pattern recognition and large databases of the song these things make. Well, now what we're doing is we're mapping Earth Tree song and creating multiple patterns in very short order. AI, as powerful as AI is, it will be able to generate a whole array of possible patterns. And then it will be able to search the known universe for tree wavelength radio signals. Think about that. We can actually not only look for exoplanets. Right now, we're trying to figure out which exoplanets can inhabit human life. But if we can actually listen for tree song, we can actually hear if there are trees living on other planets, which means it has a biosphere that we could actually live in. Now, the first possible planet, exoplanet, is called Proxima b. It's about 4.2 light years away. And it is likely to host potential life, but it would take humans 6,300 years with near existing technology. We don't even technically have the technology to get there. But as China works on its mile-long interplanetary spacecraft, and very soon, if you can come up with interplanetary spacecraft, you can actually really quickly jump, not quickly, but it would not be too far of an exaggeration to come up with interstellar travel. But these radio wavelength songs of trees will reach there and could reach from there to us much more quickly than humans can. Radio wavelengths travel much faster. So we could actually be communicating with Proxima b, and I mean communicating by listening and even sending back our signals. Now, whether or not they can interpret the signals is another question, but maybe the trees themselves can recognize these patterns in very subtle ways, and they can get there long before we will. 6,300 years away. Listen, if you are as blown away by this idea as I am, good morning, Root. Thanks for liking the show. I hope you're doing great this morning. If this blows your mind, let me know in the comments, because this absolutely melts my gourd so much that I wanted to spend all of other news on this one topic. Can you imagine this? And not only this, but this is not only a piece of technology, but it also brings us that much closer to communicating with trees. And we're going to have to create a symbiotic relationship, because what are vegetarians going to eat when we realize trees are the only thing that's helping us communicate to other planets? Jeez! So thinking about something as esoteric as trees being alive, I might as well take this morning to hit on a topic that struck me in my study. Unless, normally on a Monday morning, you think I would be all business. Let's talk about how to market. Let's talk about the fact that Thanksgiving is barely a week and a half away. You got to be ready for that. We could talk about all that mess, but instead we're talking about a super light Monday topic, and that is eternal life. Now, before I go into this, why am I talking about this? Because I think there is a myth that is pervasive, at least in Western culture. And that is the grand hereafter eternal life is what most people are waiting on. Now, even if you fancy yourself atheist or agnostic or scientifically driven and don't have an eye or an ear or a heart for anything eternity, that's fine. I still think there's a societal myth, an imprint, if you will, a Jungian symbol, like these Jungian symbols, that actually still stick with us. It's a social cultural phenomenon of the West to think about later days. I notice this when I coach people, even if they're atheist, they always have, hey, when things get better, there's a deferment of living in the moment. Now, we might be talking about goals. We might be talking about quarterly goals in the moment. We might be talking about personal goals, like I'm going to change my life when circumstances are just right, I'm going to make that move, as opposed to acting in the moment. And quite often there's a dis-ease, an uneasiness, a dis-ease in the human psyche of most modern Westerners that I know. Now, they might even be healthy people. They might be down with meditation. They might be centered and anchored. They might do energy work and be completely integrated, but still this deferment creeps in and they don't experience eternal life. There's an old story that goes, an Anglican pastor once said at a wedding ceremony, May you live all of your marriage and the rest of your days so that you may deserve and enter eternal life, which would be a very integrated thing for an Anglican minister to say at a wedding. But if you think about it, if you're living your entire marriage and the rest of your days hoping for a payoff far in the future, it kind of makes for a miserable life and a miserable marriage, wouldn't you think? I would. The message should have been something along the lines of, may you live all of your marriage and all of your days in eternal life. I want to make a few quick points here that I have to hit home, that I absolutely believe because I see so many young people. You know, this TikTok I had that went to 3.5 million views and counting. I could pull it up this morning and it's still growing. A lot of young people are experiencing uneasiness. There's a disease. They don't know what to invest in. There's a disease in their mind. They don't know what to invest their time and energy in because what used to be this far-flung future of, it'll get better once I've paid my dues. It'll get better once they accept me in the new workplace. Now they're even lacking that, but they don't have the ability to enter what I'm calling and what I believe ancients have called eternal life. Let me give you a few quick points before we talk about the two aspects that I believe you can enact today. You, whether you're an atheist, whether you're a believer, it doesn't matter. You can benefit psychologically from these two elements of eternal life right now. Let's talk about a few quick elements of eternal life real quick though. Number one, eternity is not some distant afterlife. Eternity is not like past. It's not future. Eternity is an aspect of human nature. It's an aspect of the human spirit. Now, I'm using spirit not necessarily in the theological terms, though it could be taken that way. I'm using this term, human spirit, in a way to describe the undescribable, the still as yet undescribable essence of a human being that goes far deeper than neural pathways. Like there's a lot that we have yet to discover. And so whether or not science defines it one day or not is moot. I'm talking about the undefinable aspects that we know are inherently human. Eternity is an aspect, this ability to live in the middle of the now. Greeks called this moment kairos, and it was juxtaposed against the idea of chronos. When you feel the passing of time, when you look at your watch, that's chronology. That's chronos. The god Chronos consumes his children. Look at the myth. Kairos is the time of the gods when they don't experience the progression of time. Getting in the zone, feeling the flow. When you lose yourself in the moment and you can't really tell if time is passing slow or fast, it's kind of both. That's what the Greeks called kairos time. Number one, eternity is not a distant afterlife. Number two, eternity, this means that eternity is available to you right now. Now, for a lot of my Christian friends that are like, he's talking against heaven, maybe. I'm talking against your focus on heaven. I would challenge any Christian that whether or not we believe in a heaven, we're not meant to focus on it. In fact, we're supposed to focus on the kingdom of heaven. And if you read Luke 17:21, the kingdom of heaven is upon you. The kingdom of heaven is within you. In fact, Jesus even said in this same section and verse, chapter and verse, he actually was talking about if someone says, hey, God's over here, don't look. He said, if someone's saying God's over there, don't look. He said, if someone's telling you the kingdom of heaven is coming, don't go there. He said, instead, the kingdom of heaven is within you. How do we miss this as Christians? How do we not meditate on this? So if number one is that eternity is not some distant afterlife, then number two, that means eternity is available to you right now. Now check this out. Point three. We know about heaven. We know about hell. And quite often, I actually read Greek, and I actually taught myself that there's no modern Greek in the New Testament to actually describe hell. There's metaphors about separation from God. So if you can have eternity right now, that means right now you can be experiencing, let's get it, heaven or hell in the moment. You ever been so stressed out you want to cry? You're experiencing hell right now. Nietzsche said hell is other people. I don't necessarily think hell is other people, but hell is definitely people because hell is my own conjuring. But so is heaven. Heaven is available to you right now. And since most people don't have a rich internal life, they don't imagine, they don't think optimistically, or they do imagine, but they always imagine the negative. They don't imagine the positive. They don't set goals because they've been disappointed by goals, understandably. They have an external locus of control. I don't know, this is a little $5 term for you. That is that someday this week, for most people, it's Friday at 5 p.m., I'll get my life back. And so they yield 5 days, 40 hours plus of their week to an external locus of control. So they give up control all week long and they give up the now. They're starting to live in the future. They might be living in pain of the past, hope of a future date, Friday at 5 p.m., TGIF. And they're deferring the happiness and joy in heaven they could experience until then, which means that they're back to the default in the moment. They don't imagine, or if they do imagine, they imagine the negative. They don't exercise the ability to imagine the optimistic positive of what could be going on. They don't set future goals. They've given an external locus of control, which means people are experiencing hell right now. So many people, most people, not all, not only to continue to avoid goals because it's too painful. To write a goal, you actually have to experience eternal life right now. You have to pause everything. You have to pause your future thoughts, pause your past thoughts, and go internal. And people are petrified of internal because they're trained to live an internal hellish life. So many people, most people are avoiding writing goals. They're avoiding quiet time. They're avoiding meditation. They're avoiding going to the gym because they'll be alone with their thoughts. You have to put your cell phone down when you're at the gym. You're anchored in the moment. This is why I love the gym, because it's a physiological exercise that anchors you to eternal life. My friend Derek, this guy's one of the most spiritual people I know, and he loves football because sports can transcend when people's brains race to past failures, past concerns, and future worries. It anchors you in the moment. This is where you find flow. This is why I love the gym. So most people are experiencing hell, and because they are not exercising in eternal life, because they're afraid of the shadows that exist there, they're afraid of the hell that they'll have to face, they're not cultivating an eternal life, and this continues to anchor their external locus of control. So they never experience eternal life. So they gravitate towards religions that tell them, don't worry about that. Eternal life is later. When you drop dead in the grave, just put up with all the BS right now. You'll drop dead in the grave, 30 years from now, 50 years from now, and you'll go into that sweet, sweet hereafter. I read a book that changed my life on semester at sea. It was called Life Before Death. Quit thinking about life after death. My point is this: you can live in heaven now. And I have two quick aspects of this. I believe you can live heaven today. This is why I start with a morning cup of gratitude. Let me anchor this for you. There's two aspects to living eternal life right now. We're tackling this on a Monday. Grant, I just got to send out invoices. I got to serve clients. Take a time out, because we're actually going to touch on this very briefly. Number one, you got to go internal. And number two, you got to bring internal, external. You're already doing this with your hellish living. You're so stressed out inside. You're so afraid. You're so used to imagining the worst. And then you're bringing that external, and that's what's called emotional vomit for anyone that has a shred of empathy, which is most humans. We feel this stress and anxiety, and we avoid you. Jessica says, live heaven today. Yes, Jessica knows she's an energy worker. And even being an energy worker, I'm willing to bet she doesn't experience heaven nearly as much as she wished she did. And she's an energy worker. Being someone who fancies himself spiritual, I spend way too much time living in a pragmatic, hellish reality. So I'm working on me on this. So number one, go internal. 3 aspects of going internal. Number one, gratitude. I tell people this. Why do I start with a morning cup of gratitude? I start with the morning cup of gratitude because I believe felt gratitude. I don't mean a head assent. Oh, I'll be grateful. I'm grateful that I'm not sick. I believe felt gratitude would move you so much you couldn't give it words. I believe a felt gratitude would stir you so deeply that it would change your life just to feel gratitude. And I believe you need to do this. This is why I start every day with gratitude, because one day, if you start gratitude with me in the morning and you shut the show off after that, if you just felt gratitude with me, morning after morning after morning, one day you're going to raise your warm cup of gratitude and you're going to get so stirred you can't stand it. And you'll realize this is the threshold to the eternal, internal, eternal. Gratitude is your threshold to a positive internal life. It basically puts a hazmat suit to the poison in your heart and allows you to enter and feel nothing but gratitude for your internal life. And you can start cleaning out the hazmat suit and cleaning out the mold and muck and mire of your heart without letting it get on you. Gratitude is the protective layer to going internal. You got to hear that. If you hear one thing today, hear this idea. Gratitude, deeply stirring gratitude that brings you near to tears is the internal force field that allows you to go internal and get rid of all the muck and mire. It protects you. Number one, feel gratitude. Number two, as you're going internal, part two, know your heroic story and where you came from and own it. Too many of you, when you think about the past, there's all these things that were challenges. What I want you to focus on is the overcoming, the badass that came out of that. Female, male, you have overcome traps. There were traps, psychological and emotional traps laid for you unintentionally by those who loved you, those who cared for you, but those who didn't know the way the world worked, that you were a tabula rasa, and if they weren't careful, they might impose religion, dogma, fear, anxiety on you. Going internal starts with feeling a deep felt gratitude, but then you've got to start going, okay, I'm internal. Let me reflect on my past life, even for a moment, even for an afternoon, even for 5 minutes, and reflect on how awesome it was that I overcame that. Don't focus on the that. Don't focus on the overcame. I overcame that. And leapfrog to the next thing. I overcame that. You're jumping from wave crest to wave crest and re-scripting the past. Number one is feeling gratitude. Number two is re-scripting your heart to know and accept the fact that your past is your hero's journey. You're not full of trauma. You're full of healing. Well, Grant, it takes healing and trauma. Yeah, but you've been focusing on the trauma so much. Tell me about the healing. And by that, I mean, tell me about, just like I encourage you, don't just have a mental assent towards gratitude. Don't have a mental assent towards healing. Feel the healing. Feel it. Take it in. Pause and think, what does a healed person feel like? I feel joyful. I feel happy. I'm not afraid. Go internal deeply and start with gratitude, and then grab your story of trauma or overcoming or trials and turn it into the hero story, your hero story, and allow yourself to feel the heroism of that overcoming. Don't let up until you do. Don't move on to the next step until you do. The next step is this. Determine your meaningful future. Look to the future with this new grateful paradigm, with this heroic paradigm, and think, I can flip and do anything. So let me look forward, and we've got to wait on this, but in the meantime, I'm going to do that because I'm a badass, and I move from challenge to healing, and I jump from wave crest to wave crest. I jump from mountaintop to mountaintop. Determine a meaningful future. If the divine set these challenges so that I could become this strong person, this heartfelt person, this empathic person, the divine set me up for that. So I'm here and I'm going, okay, what does the divine have for me next? And that's the meaningful future. The divine wants me to be smarter this way, stronger this way, kinder this way, more giving in this way. And this is the how a goal is shaped. That's who I want to be. I want to be this awesome person, positioned mentally, shaped and honed like a samurai blade, ready to cut through all the crap of tomorrow. So who do I have to become from today? And look at what I've done in the past. So who can I become in the future? Let's go. This is all happening internally. So if you can feel gratitude as the entry point into your heart, and then you can take that feeling and being grateful for the past and the trauma, but really the healing and the healing and the healing and the overcoming. Well, what are you healing from? Doesn't even matter even anymore. I just want to focus on what I'm empowered to be. And now I can look forward from this strong point of view and see the whole landscape of what the divine and fate has for me. And who do you need to become? Who do you need to become? You're already so good. You're good enough already, but you got to develop some skills and you got to develop some insights and you got to invest in people. And that's when you set goals. This all happens inside of me when I set goals. I'm just giving it language, but this is the cycle that happens inside of me when I set goals. And from that, you should be permeating this freaking energy. You should be permeating. Man, I just feel driven. I feel that this is meaningful. I feel that where I'm going is full of meaning. You are a perpetual motion machine, and it's spinning the way you set it in motion. Is it hell or is it heaven? All this that I have just described are three aspects of going internal: gratitude, reflecting on the past and re-scripting it as a heroic journey, and looking to the future with meaning and purpose from the divine and determining that this is the direction I'm going to go. And then you just take a minute and set some goals. I'm going to get to the gym. I'm going to leave for the gym at 3 a.m. I'm going to get up and be at the gym. Why? Because I can. I've got one life that I know of, and I've got a purpose to fulfill. Did God give you that purpose? I don't know, but I took the time to sit down and dig deep and listen and go, no, let me be honest about what I want and who I'm going to be and really what I feel like the divine is drawing me to if I were just being honest. Then you go to the second major aspect. Those were the three aspects of going internal. The second major aspect is bring that external. You have a hint. When you've gone internal, you've got whispers of living eternity right now. When you bring that energy and that vibe and that intentionality and that purpose from that internal space and bring that external, that's when you have caused kairos. That's when you have caused eternal life in this moment. Quick aspects of bringing it external. Just one. Anchor yourself in the eternal present. Do you have to clean cars? I see Ryan Chris like the show. Good morning, Ryan. Do you have to detail cars, detail boats, detail planes, sell your thing, delegate to clients, delegate to employees, to serve clients? I wish it were Friday at 5 p.m. Why don't you just kill yourself? Because you're giving your life away 40 hours at a time. You're giving your joy away. In fact, you're giving the only known eternal life. We don't know if there's an afterlife, but we know there's a before life, and you're giving it away 40 hours at a time. If you're, but not you. You've spent an internal life. You have invested yourself every day, every morning when you start that morning, every moment when you have a down moment. You have done these three aspects of internal. And then you bring it external. You anchor yourself in the eternal present. The present then becomes the anchor point of a divinely ordained past and a divinely inspired future. You're the center point. This externalized eternal life should be peppered with the serotonin of, man, I feel great about who I was. And let me tell you something, the dopamine hit of what I can be is hitting me. It should be peppered, this eternal moment. So if you got to detail cars, build websites, talk to clients, collect credit cards, have that difficult conversation with an employee, it's not going to be peppered with, I hate to have this conversation. It's going to be from the freaking heavens, and it's going to be, hey, we got to talk about being badasses together because we're under-delivering, and let's talk about it. Where do you think I tapped this? It's not caffeine. Well, maybe a little. This externalized eternal moment of now should be peppered with this knowledge of, listen, my life's been divinely ordained, and this challenge I'm facing today, this moderate mundane thing I've got to face, I got to clean the car, I got to run to the post office, this mundane thing, man, I'm just going to plow right over that. Why? Because I'm peppered with the serotonin of the past and the dopamine of an divinely inspired future. And then lastly, the actions of your day now take on a spiritual and mythological importance. Hey, This isn't just detailing a car. This isn't just building a drone. This isn't just selling a website, sending invoices, updating my employees so that they do better. This is me living out a myth. This is me living out my spiritual calling. This is the moment that I shape. This is the moment that I shape my future. When was the best time to plant an avocado tree? 4 years ago. But if you go back 4 years and Stacy was like, I want an avocado tree. 4 years from now, I'll get around to it. No, you got to put that thing in. You got to weed around. You got to water it. That mundane thing that you think, that is the seed of who you are becoming. Hear me on that. That mundane thing, running to the post office, how you detail that car, how I talk to my employee, how quickly I get to answering my client, how quickly I get to solving problems. That is the seed of the who-ness of tomorrow's eternal life. And it's how you live eternity in the moment. Meditation, mindfulness, these are all practice for tapping the eternal, divinely ordained past and a divinely inspired future. Go internal, bring it external. Start with gratitude. Rescript your past for a heroic journey. Listen to your inspired future and then bring that into the present and realize the most mundane thing I touch is how I access. That is the access point. That's not a boundary. You having to run errands is not a speed bump to feeling eternity. It is the leverage. It is the fulcrum. The lever is your attitude. The fulcrum, that you think of a fulcrum. In all the drawings of a fulcrum, it looks like a little triangle that looks like a parking bumper. And most people are like, that's a speed bump. That's a freaking leverage point. But how do you leverage what other people consider speed bumps? With an eternal attitude. To reflect on the past and know that it's divinely ordained, even if that's coming from you, even if you're atheistic, even if you're science-bound, even if you're agnostic and just don't know. If you can look back and reflect and see a pattern of, wow, look at all of these wins, look at all of these healing moments. What about trauma? Jump over it, man. That becomes the pull that is the leverage, the lever on the fulcrum of what other people call speed bumps. And this is what catapults you into a divinely inspired future. This is the missing element that you have on a Monday at 9 a.m. when you have to clock in and you think the world is the worst. You don't have an enriched internal life, and therefore you're not living your eternal life. And you have access to that right now. Not a set of dogma, not a religion, a locus, a focus of what's on your heart. Listen, if you need any help or support, visit us at stateofthespark.com. Join our free Discord. Get involved in the conversation. Consider joining the Patreon if you care. But really, no matter what you do, remember the mission. Igniting lives of explosive significance, starting with your own. Have a great day.